Hey everyone, good morning and welcome to the next episode of my career path with Omar Abedin. I am Omar and today we're going to continue on from Johnson & Johnson in Canada. If you recall, I've been very fortunate to work with J&J Canada after a stint with J&J Saudi Arabia and J&J Middle East, and the result was a role with a fantastic company that I thoroughly enjoyed. But in 2004 I resigned to join Novartis Consumer Health in Mississauga in English-speaking Canada, and this was my first foray into pharmaceutical marketing, and it was something I was looking forward to learning from a lot. Now, I left J&J in April of that year, and on my way back from a trip to Toronto, where we had been putting a bid in for a home that we were interested in, I developed a stomachache, and it got worse and worse. And by the time we reached Montreal, I dropped my wife and kids at home, and I drove myself to the ER in Longueuil, which is on the south shore of Montreal. Went into the hospital. The ER was packed. Had to wait several hours. Conditions kept getting worse, and eventually when I did get checked out, turned out that I had appendicitis. So they said, no, we're going to operate on you in the morning, it'll be a day surgery, you could probably go home by the evening. So I called my wife later that night, and I just said, hey, this is happening, don't worry about coming to the hospital. I'll see you guys at home. I have the car, I'll just drive myself. So had the surgery, woke up in absolute agony, unable to breathe or function, couldn't communicate well. The doctor didn't believe that I was in pain and struggling. Eventually they took me for an x-ray, and they found that my lung had collapsed during the surgery. So they had to rush me into the OR again to insert a breathing tube into the side of my chest so that my lung would reinflate. When I came out of that, I was in agony again because they'd managed to hit a nerve plexus on the way in, and now they couldn't remove the tube because they wouldn't be able to find the hole in the lung again. So I basically spent the next week in agony with a morphine drip attached. Anyway, everyone in my family was freaking out. My wife and kids were kind of alone in Montreal, so my brother-in-law, sister-in-law, aunts, and eventually my parents from Pakistan, they all got on planes and they flew to Montreal to find out what was going on, and B, to try and help my wife, in coping with all of this. So about 10 days in, I went back home and developed infection in the wound. So I ended up back in the hospital, and long story short, I spent nearly a month in the hospital with treatment bills that would have run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, but for the fact that Quebec has an incredible safety net for people who are unemployed. Because guess what? I was unemployed. I had left J&J. I no longer had the medical insurance coverage from J&J. And I had not yet joined Novartis. Anywhere else in the world, I would have been in big trouble. And you know what my treatment as an unemployed person cost me in Quebec? $10. That was my subscription that I had to pay to the protection plan for people who found themselves in my position in Quebec. It was a miracle. Yeah. So, go socialism, right? At least I wasn't bankrupt as a result of having to go to the hospital due to the incompetence of the doctors there and, just the repeated nonsense. Anyway, now we start in June. I finally made it to Toronto, joined Novartis, and Novartis was a roller coaster of a ride. I mean, everything happened at Novartis. I was working on their one of the leading brands in the cough and cold portfolio called Neocitran, kind of a sedentary brand, not much happening. The brand was used as a prize football by major retailers in cough and cold season, so brand equity was all over the place. It was just being mistreated, so there was a lot of work to do, and so we cracked into it. We made new communication. We worked on getting our price solidified in the market. We started penalizing retailers who were treating our brand as a loss leader consistently, and did some innovation, did some new packaging, product, and we were lucky because the global Theraflu brand, Neocitran and Theraflu are basically the same product. Theraflu in the US, Neocitran in Canada. We were able to leverage their global packaging relaunch and come up with new packaging for the brand at the same time. So brand started doing well reasonably quickly. Within a few months, I was promoted to group brand manager for the cough and cold portfolio. So that included the Buckley's brand, which, if you've never heard of it, the tagline for Buckley's is, "It tastes awful and it works." And there's a reason for that tagline. I challenge you to drink 1 teaspoonful of Buckley's and not make a face like you're about to throw up, or actually feel like you're about to throw up. But iconic brand. And then Triaminic, which was cough and cold for kids. So if you've ever had small kids, you've probably given them Triaminic at some point. And a couple of other smaller brands like Otrivin, nasal drops, and so on. So really, a really important portfolio. It was more than 50% of the revenue of the company, and a massive percentage of the bottom line. So it got a lot of attention. Within a few months after that, the company started going through an internal reorg, closer alignment to the US, less independence, but more exciting projects, bigger projects. So I got promoted again into the role of North American Senior Brand Manager for Triaminic. And Triaminic at that point was a $70 million brand, really strong gross margins, and massive contribution to the overall health of the cough and cold portfolio, but also the overall company within North America. During this time, my life was complete chaos. I was traveling to the US 3 times a week from Canada. So I was taking literally what felt like a bus service from Toronto Pearson Airport to Newark in New Jersey 3 times a week. And it felt like I was, on a plane more than I was anywhere else. So as someone responsible for leading the brand, I had a team of almost 30 people across different functions, because it was a cross-functional team set up for Triaminic. It was just fantastic. the Triaminic brand was facing a number of challenges. The first one was the Food and Drug Administration mandating that all OTC, over-the-counter cough and cold medicines that had a certain ingredient, pseudoephedrine, PSE, which is a precursor to crystal meth, and was, a problem because people used to go in and steal cough and cold medicine or buy them from the OTC section of the pharmacy and then distill the PSE out of it to make crystal meth. And so the FDA mandated that all these products had to be put behind the counter, and that was the death to any OTC brand. Sales typically drop 90-95% when a brand goes from OTC to BTC, because now you have to sign for it, you need a prescription, you have to show ID, and so on and so forth. It's just horrible for any brand that faces that. The whole industry was facing that. The entire cough and cold industry was facing that in 2005. As we went into this, the Triaminic team pulled an incredible hare out of the hat, as it were, or rabbit out of the hat. We got together, we spent a couple of days brainstorming in New Jersey, and one of the ideas that emerged from the team, that I can take credit for partially because I was the team lead, was to simply remove PSE from the products that had PSE in it. And on the face of it, it seemed like a stupid idea. But then as we looked at it, we realized that replacing PSE with another ingredient would require an FDA approval process that would take a year. And we would basically miss the upcoming season, 05-06 season, completely. It would be a disaster. The $70 million brand would probably become a $40 million brand, which obviously is not acceptable because this would have happened across the adult products that included PSE as well. So overall, the company portfolio of $500 million would probably come down to $250 million as a result of removing the product from the shelf. So we decided that we were going to pull out the PSE. We redid the packaging, phased out the old product, and within 2 months, just in time for cough and cold season, we had product on shelf. Yes, it was slightly less effective, but it was product. And at the same time, we redid the positioning of Triaminic, working with Saatchi & Saatchi out of New York, which was a wow experience. We spent, at that time, $1.5 million on producing new creative based on the new positioning. And the positioning was the medicine of motherhood. I remember being in the 5th floor conference room of the Saatchi & Saatchi office in New York, and then presenting it, and the whole brand team actually sitting up and applauding the presentation. Basically, we took a gross negative about the category, that when a child falls sick, the parents' lives are disrupted, everything is chaotic, it's terrible. And we flipped it on its head and said, look, when a child falls sick, it's an amazing opportunity for you to reconnect with them. And, we'll give you the tools you need to make your child feel better. But the emotional support and the connectivity in your relationship, you will bring to the table. So the medicine of motherhood, it was extremely powerful. So with the new communication, the new product that was thankfully on shelf, sales of Triaminic actually went to $110 million in that season. And it was a massive, massive success story. The results were so strong, the category overall actually declined, if I remember correctly, by 6 or 7%. And our sales went up by over 50% because of this massive effort that the team put in. What are the key takeaways? Unfortunately, what happened after that was my role So I had been traveling to the US more than 50 times a year. And in the early part of 2006, US immigration, God bless them, actually stopped me from traveling. They said that we believe that this gentleman is actually working in the US and is just, pretending to have residency in Canada because he wants to avoid paying US taxes, which is kind of ludicrous because US taxes are a lot lower than Canadian taxes. And it would have been, an absolutely amazingly funny thing to deal with, except that it wasn't funny. I could no longer travel. And on an earlier trip, just before all of this fell down, I had actually been on a flight with our regional director, Brian McNamara. Brian was this amazing guy, currently the CEO of Haleon. He and I found ourselves, he had come up to Canada for presentations, and he and I were on the same flight going down in the morning from Toronto to New Jersey. There was a 7 a.m. flight that we were both taking to be in the office by 8:39. And, we started chatting, and I was randomly selected, which happened 100% of the time, for extra screening. So I told Brian, listen, have a safe flight. I will see you in New Jersey. I'll just probably not make the 7 o'clock. I might make the next flight. So I said, no, I'll come with you. I mean, we can keep chatting. There's a lot to catch up on. He obviously, I had presented to him many times and the board on Triaminic and the progress, and it's kind of in his good books. So I said, Brian, trust me, this is not going to turn out well. It's going to disrupt your day. And he's like, Omar, how bad could it be? And I just raised my eyebrows and I said, okay, most welcome. So he came and he sat with me in the, in the back room, where basically you're in perdition. You can't use your phone. You have to just sit and wait until they call you and process you through what used to be called the NSEERS program, the National Security Exit and Entry Registration System. Ask me how I still remember that 20 years later. It's because it was the bane of my existence as a Pakistani Muslim male of a certain age traveling to the US. It was just a nightmare. Anyway, so, I missed the 7 o'clock flight. The Air Canada representative came in, stuck her head through the door, said, oh, Mr. Abedin, you're still here. Mr. McNamara, the flight's going to leave in 10 minutes. And he said, no. What are you going to do with Omar? And she said, well, we normally move him to the 8 o'clock. He said, okay, move me to the 8 o'clock as well. So, that day just took longer than usual. And I actually didn't even make the 8 o'clock. I made the 9 o'clock flight down to New Jersey. And Brian and I just, he just sat with me through the whole process. And eventually he said, Omar, we made it to the 9 o'clock flight. They slammed the door behind us and the plane started moving before we even sat down. He sat down and he looked across the aisle of this very small commuter jet and he said, Omar, how often do you have to deal with this? Because I see you in New Jersey, it seems like every day. I was like, yeah, it's about 3 times a week for me. And he said, you do this 3 times a week? And what the hell? So, just when my traveling got blocked by the US, Brian called and said, hey, Omar, I have good news. We're moving your role to the US so you can stop this incessant traveling. And, it's going to be phenomenal. And I told him, Brian, I don't know if you're aware. I guess, the news hadn't made it to him. Why would it? I can't travel. I have a ban. The company's trying to sort it out. They're trying to, so the company got involved. There was legal submissions, like 6-inch thick legal submissions with data pertaining to every trip I had made in the last year and a half, which was close on to 100 trips. And the end result was they eventually lifted the ban after they went through their own process. They realized, yes, he's in a North American role and he's actually Canadian. And unfortunately, by the time that happened, Novartis couldn't wait anymore. They said, look, we moved the role. Now there is no role in Canada. So, it just worked out so that I could not move into my own role in the US, and they had to hire someone else to replace me. They offered me a golden parachute, to leave the company on good terms, because I said I can't move. I don't have my Canadian passport yet. And as luck would have it, a week after I took the parachute, I got my Canadian passport, which was like a week, literally a week. Anyway, so towards the end of 2006, I was parting ways with Novartis, and my wife and I had a long chat. We had our, citizenship. The plan had always been to return to Dubai, when we had our passports, because my parents and my family were, my brother's family and extended family were all in Karachi, and a lot of Afshan's family and friends were also in Karachi. So the plan was always to return to Dubai, which is, a 2-hour flight. Flying to Pakistan from North America is almost impossible. Like, you have to plan it for weeks, months in advance, and it's expensive and cumbersome. It's, minimum, even a direct flight is 14 hours, and there are no direct flights to Karachi now except for PIA, which is, possibly you might make it to Karachi. So I started looking for a job in Dubai, and that'll be the subject of the next video, when I joined the ice cream division of IFCO, and that was another really fun ride. The learnings I had from Novartis were, in chaos there is opportunity. The company was going through a major reorg. I was able to, keep my head above water, work really, really hard, because I'm telling you, flying to the US 50 times a year is nobody's cup of tea. There was a time I woke up in a hotel room and I didn't know where I was. I had to look at the hotel stationery to figure out, I'm here, why am I here? And then I checked my calendar on my BlackBerry and found that I had an appointment with CVS head office to go and talk about this new product we were launching on Triaminic. I guess a third learning is that innovation and innovating is a mindset. If you want to be creative in the way that you approach your work and your life, you can. It's in your hands. I mean, the way that we came up with a solution to the pseudoephedrine crisis was extremely innovative, but along with that, we did a whole bunch of, company first, category first for Triaminic. We launched thin strips, which was basically, like a Listerine thin strip, except that it was medicated. You just put it on your tongue, no water needed, no pills to swallow. Very, very easy for, small children to take medicine. That was a world first, literally a world first in the cough and cold category. The Triaminic medicine of motherhood positioning. I got to go to Hollywood to shoot an ad for this new campaign. I mean, I've never done anything like that before. It was absolutely astonishing. I guess the biggest learning I had, though, was the importance of the team. I was so lucky to work with such incredible people, both at NCH, Canada, and Novartis head office in New Jersey. I mean, I already mentioned Brian. What a guy. Like, just an amazing person. And that culture really started from him. Our VP of marketing, Jose Rodriguez, was one of the most intimidating young people I've ever met in my life. He had moved from P&G. His claim to fame was that he had massively increased the offtake of Fairy Liquid by widening the nozzle by some fraction. And so the volume being used was, on an annualized basis, a huge growth for Fairy Liquid in a stagnant category. He had the most intimidating face I have ever seen of someone not in the movies. And he acknowledged it, he laughed about it, and he said, look, I can't do anything about my face. I'm just, I'm not that person. I just remember that about him. He was sharp and focused individual. I guess Paul Gamma was my boss in Canada initially. When he moved to the US, I got promoted into the group brand manager role. Paul was a rock star. He is currently running marketing for one of the world's biggest companies, and he's just an incredible person. We had the same life. We had, wife, 2 kids, a minivan, the same minivan. It was astonishing. Just an amazing, warm person from whom I learned so much about brand building, about brand identity, brand equity, and just how to lead a team. What a gem of a person. Blaine Harrison, who was my functional boss at Novartis Canada, because I had multiple reporting lines. I was reporting to Paul in the US and Blaine in Canada. Blaine and I share a birthday. We're exactly 10 years apart. Blaine is just a gem of a guy, and we became very close friends. I remember once sitting with Blaine late on a Friday night when everyone had gone home, and just talking about all kinds of things, 9/11 and conspiracy theories and this and that. It's just an amazing person. Every year we try to beat each other to the draw in terms of wishing the other person happy birthday. Just phenomenal. People in the team that were and are friends. Kiran Moy, saw him in Dubai just a few months ago. I was able to host him and his wife here, and it was so great to catch up and meet his wonderful children. Stephen Carvalho, just a fantastically nice person. Amanda, Paul Armstrong. The list is really endless. We had an incredible team, and I miss that. I miss the excitement of working in North America sometimes, because it is the biggest market in the world. You have real-time data. You have analytics coming in from every direction. My marketing budget on Triaminic was at that time $35 million. We had a massive doctor detailing, pharmacist detailing teams. We had new product launches coming out of the yin yang. We had brilliant communication. It was just, everything was firing on all cylinders. And if I had to say, in terms of the highlight of my marketing life, my marketing career, I would say that Novartis Consumer Health, the experience there was absolutely, for me, the peak. Because working with an ad agency from Madison Avenue in New York, and that too a company like Saatchi & Saatchi and their amazing creative teams, and then going out to shoot an ad in Hollywood, and then spending $30 million on national television across Canada and the US, I mean, in 2005, 2006, $30 million was a heck of a lot more than it is today. But just overall, the team, the travel, the retreats, going to Arizona for a national sales and marketing conference. I just, sitting in the desert around a campfire, a bonfire, smoking a cigar, and just, shooting the shit with people till 4 in the morning. Just absolutely crazy stuff. So fun. And, fills me with joy to this day. It was just so life-changing. Absolutely incredible. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking about Novartis now and start talking about my journey with London Dairy and Igloo ice cream in my next video. Look forward to seeing you then, and have yourself a great day. Bye.